Is this the same process that they use for making like the whiskey jugs that are antiques?
Yeah.
And they work at all, some of those are 5 gallons.
Yeah. Potters can throw huge amounts of clay. They build up to it. They also can make it in pieces. So they may make a section this tall, and then they might make a section this tall to go on top, and then they may make a section this tall to finish it off. So they make it in pieces, and then they join it all together. So if anybody has HBO Max on their TV system, or is interested in getting HBO Max, not that I'm advocating for that, but they have the Great British Pottery Throwdown show on HBO Max. And the things that they make are just incredible. I have seen the most beautiful breakfast sets, tea sets, toilets, outdoor fountains, animal lamps. I mean, it is just incredible what you can do with clay. And I recommend it because it will just inspire you.
What was the name of it?
The Great British Pottery Throwdown. So if you like the baking show that they do, it's the same principle. They eliminate people each week, and maybe in snippets. It's on Facebook in snippets too. So, okay. So I need to keep going with this part. And it's a slow process. If you are wanting an instant microwave craft, it's not going to work. You have to be prepared to slow it all down and just forget about time for a little bit.
So if Larry and I buy a wheel and we buy clay from you, what's that going to cost us?
The clay,
The clay.
I actually charge $40 for 25 pounds, but that includes the firing and the glaze. So.
And what other tools do we need other than sponge, it looks like?
So for the wheel itself, you can buy like a basic pack. It comes with one of these, a wire, a sponge, a needle tool. There's some tools there that it comes with, like a knife and a potter's knife, like with a potter's thumb on it, which is this one here. I'm trying to think what else, but that pretty much is all you need. And then as soon as you get more into it, there's like a host of tools that you probably will want. It's more than you. Okay.
Does this have to dry
Yes.
considerable time before you fire?
About a week.
Well, that's all.
Yeah, about a week, and then you can bisque fire it. And the bisque firing takes about 8 hours. It's a low fire, and what that will do is make sure that it's ready. Then it's vitreous, as they call it, as much as it can be, depending on what clay you have. And then you would glaze it, and there's 3 different types of clay that you can buy. There's a low fire clay, which is earthenware. Then there's a mid fire clay, which is, there's pretty much stoneware, but it's certain types. And then there's high fire clay. And the high fire clay goes up to about cone 10. It's normally like porcelain or stoneware mixed with porcelain sometimes, or certain stoneware. And it goes up to that temperature, and then it becomes to the point where it's so dry and hard that it doesn't absorb water. And a lot of pottery that you see, the mugs and stuff, is that kind of clay, the medium to high fire clay, because it's safer for food. You can bake in it, you can put your food on it, you can have cups of coffee, you can put it outside. This clay is earthenware, and you can make mugs out of it, you can make plates out of it, but it's not as high fired, so it probably doesn't last as long, but it still lasts a good time. And it's a great clay. It's got so many things you can do with it, and it's lots of fun to work with.
So as far as the firing time, say you were making a mug and you gave it the week to rest or to harden, what is the firing time?
It's 8 hours.
Okay.
So it goes in the kiln for 8 hours, and it reaches bisque temperature, which is like an 05 cone. I would say it's probably about 1200 degrees. The kilns tend to go up to 2300 degrees. So I'm not quite sure what the mid-fire range is, but it's probably between the 1200 and the 2300, maybe 1800. And then obviously the high fire goes up to 2300 degrees. So that's hot. And if you peep inside the kiln while it's on, it looks like it's a volcano in there. Everything's red and glowing and melty looking. So, okay, let me finish this little bowl real quick. Put it one more time.
Tanya, what width are the walls?
The width on these walls is probably 2/8. I've got to. It's very hard for me because I'm metric. So I'm looking at it going, oh, it's about 2 millimeters, but that's really not going to explain to you what it is it?
Calipers to measure.
So it's probably about 2/8 of an inch.
Okay, so 1/4 of an inch.
An eighth of an inch then. Because I'm trying to think. There's an inch, there's half, 1/4 inch. Or 1/8 of an inch. 1/8. 2/8 of an inch. Okay. 2 millimeters. Hey, when you try to switch your brain from one to the other, and I sew, so I do know inches and 1/4 inch, because quilting and all that kind of stuff. But I know that's not 1/4 of an inch, it's less. So, okay.
Can't you make it as thick as you want it?
So you can, but it depends what you're doing with it. There is a limit to the thickness that you can fire.
I'm thinking of a vase, for instance.
You can make chunky vases, and you can make solid, really good ones. But if you go past an inch in thickness, there's a high chance of the kiln firing it and then exploding. It does not do well. Like, you can't fire stones or anything like that in the kiln. It just, the temperature gets too high, it's too thick. So you're always going to be aware that you want it a certain thinness, and it's choice. If you want it kind of thick and bulky, you definitely can do that.
I'm thinking like 1/4 of an inch,
Yes, definitely. I think I've made pots in the beginning that were at least half an inch thick, and they survived. So they're on my wall of fame of how to improve. But they're very old, that's all I'm going to say. So, yes, and then
Do you make sculptures with that? Can you do that?
you can make sculptures with it. I am not a sculpture artist, but it doesn't mean that I'm not open to trying. You could say maybe that I do sculpt in my own way, because I do enjoy hand building. And with the hand building, which I'll show you in a little bit, there's all sorts of things that you can do. I mean,
Long time ago, I'm talking about when I was in my mid or late 20s, I did some pottery, and I made elephants,
how fabulous.
but I don't know what I do anymore.
Oh, that sounds very cool though. So we've made elephants at the studio. Where I'm at now, I can't raku fire, but where I used to be, we could raku fire, and I was just getting into that kind of mode of getting it worked out and perfected. And actually, I've got another potter that's messaged me, and she said that at her pottery studio, she would be very open to us doing raku there. I know. And she probably would do wood burning too. Carol McGuinness.
Oh, I've heard
You know her? Yeah. So she's very kind. She lives out in Richards, and she's like, come on ladies, let's have some fun. And I love her. She's a really lovely lady. So, okay, let me finish this part real quick.
While you're doing that, could you explain, what is the difference between clay pottery and china?
So a lot of china is mold making.
Yes.
So that's what this is. So they, this is all like freestyle. Sometimes they use something called a jig though too. So if I had a pottery jig, it's like I would throw the clay on there and I would pull a lever and this big form would come down and it would work on that clay that I just put on there and make it into a plate.
Okay.
So
What is the material?
that would be bone china is normally. It's a much finer like porcelain and it's slick.
Porcelain, Larry, porcelain clay.
It's white usually.
Porcelain clay is very, very, very fine grain.
So this is slip.
This is what?
Slip.
Slip?
So don't confuse this with slip that I use on my hand building. This is the slip that I use to make this. So what I would do is I would get my mold, I would put it together, and I would band it like this, okay? I would then pour this liquid slip into here, which is a certain mixture that you buy. I would leave it sit for perhaps 20 minutes, and then I would test it. And then after I've tested it, if I think it's thick enough, I would empty this out, almost like taking an Easter egg. So you're left with the shell. So this is what I made earlier, and I'm going to pass it around. It is soft, and that's okay. I do not mind if it dings or doesn't survive the journey. Yeah, we were trying to work out whether these two pieces went together, but I'm thinking they do. I'm not sure what you would use it for though.
When you say bone china, is there actually crushed
I believe so.
bone in
I
the...
believe there is. I don't know if they still make it with the bone in it, but I believe so. I know.
I didn't know it was wet.
Interesting.
Would you like a wet one?
I would, I didn't realize it was wet.
Slip is used in concrete stuff as well.
Yeah, it's
It's
easy.
watered down, right, basically.
It is, but they do add other stabilizers into this one, I believe.
So this is green ware.
This is green. Anybody else like a? Okay. So here's what I'm working on now. I pulled these this morning, so you can see exactly what it's going to look like. Thank you. So I think that goes on there.
That's what they're doing.
Okay. So I have this fettling tool, and the first thing that I would do is come over here and I would actually trim out this area here where you poured it. Yes, where I poured it in. And you've got to understand that this is going to be absorbing the water out of the clay to leave the shell. That's why it's plastic. So it's going to sink continuously. So I have to keep going in there, pouring more in to make sure that the level is deep enough that when I pour it out, the feet are going to be where I need them thickness-wise. So I would just come in. As you can see over there, what I'm doing. So this clay, at this point, is very stable. It's hard to believe that this was liquid when I started out. So next thing I got to do is, without pinging myself, get these big elastic bands off. And I do ping myself now and again. Like, ah. And I don't want to shoot anybody either, so there we go. And then I tilt it, and I lift this up. Now, I don't know if it's dry enough for me to take it out, but I'm going to try. And there it is, Miss Piggy.
Is it hollow?
It is hollow, and it's supposed to be a mini box. So, I think what I'm gonna have to do is, work with this clay that I take off and attach it onto these feet here to seal it.
Yeah.
And then, I don't quite know where you could put the disc though. I'm gonna have to work on that. It does say money box on it. And then I would cut a slot in the top, but isn't she a cutie?
She is cute, that's a piggy bank.
Yes.
What is the thickness of the walls on that casting? Really? Interesting.
It's lots of fun.
So I'm confused, how did you pour it in there and then adhere the wall and remain hollow? How did it get hollow?
And then it
Okay, so I emptied the clay back out.
After it sits around the edges.
So I fill it to the rim. So I got all my bands on this.
Yeah,
I put it up like this,
yeah.
and I ladle the clay slip into here, which is the bag of stuff, all the way to the top. And then it sits like that full, and we topping it up to make sure it stays at that level for about 20 minutes.
Okay.
And then I tip it out.
Oh, you pour out the liquid?
Yeah, pour out the liquid, and it's
okay.
got that lovely Easter egg shell that's
Okay,
left behind.
I get it.
And then I just leave it sit then, and I think this was done about 10 o'clock this morning. So it's a bit of a slow process, but again, it's lots of fun. And then I would take this tool again, and take that off there, and like the seam, I would just
Get rid of the seal. Right.
get rid of the seam
Yeah.
all the way down.
So if you forget to pour it out, then you have this big lump that you can't fire because it will explode.
Solid, it's absolutely solid, yeah.
Yeah.
Then it's a good weapon.
Yeah.
And it'll explode when you fire it.
Yes. And
And
sometimes,
everybody else's stuff in there will explode as well.
Yep.
yeah, it takes other people's work out. It's thankfully not something I've had happen very often. There was one little boy that came in and made a whale, and the clay was a bit wet, and I didn't realize that he was just packing it in there to get the shape he wanted. So it did take out my whale as well, but I would rather that than the customers. So we had a big, and lots of dead whale in there. That happens though. And then also you can use your finger to smooth, you can use a sponge. And you can get it where you would never ever have seen this, the seam at all. So, but I need some help working out what this is. Because it's not big enough for, I just don't know what you would put in there, maybe salt or something on your kitchen counter?
Give us your
Yeah, ring, it's a ring dish.
ring box.
I like all these suggestions, yeah, but it's kind of cute, isn't it? Okay, so that's the mold work, and then,
Better finish with stuff.
Yeah, what about your little pot?
I know, let me finish up.
So what do classes cost us and those kinds of things?
Okay, so I can't lie, I started out $40 a class. And I realized that one person in my class a week really wasn't cutting it. So I thought, okay, what's the bare minimum I can do? So I brought my classes down, depending when I have a sale on or not. Hand building is $25, that includes the glaze and the clay, like 4 pounds of clay. And studio time and teaching if you need it.